Okay, I hope you remember the story. The main target of my course is clarify how interact the physical environment and the society in the historical past. The first step, clarify the background, the origin of the thinking about the environmental problems. You remember, in the last occasion I tried to clarify how influenced the Judeo-Christian heritage and the Greek heritage the thinking of contemporary society. The next step is the early scholars, early scientists who try to define the background, try to define the nature of interaction. If you remember the last great period, it's early environmentalists. You remember the name of Comte de Buffon, who defined first time the optimistic concept about transformation of physical environment, and finally, according to conclusion of Buffon, which summarized in the very seminal book of him, Les Époques de la Nature, that finally the humankind will able to transform our physical environment like on the Garden Eden. It's very optimistic. Rationalism helped a lot, and it's a smart planet. Recently came time by time same concept which described first time in the 18th century, but recently, for example, in the case of problem of global warming, a lot of scholars, physicists for example, it's no problem, may change the climate with help of smart planet technology, for example. Okay, but first time drawn in the 18th century. Other one, George Perkins Marsh, wrote his very seminal book about the Earth as modified by human action. It's very pessimistic. Recently, if the people thinking about the physical problem of physical environment, two concepts. It's very optimistic. Smart planet technology will solve each problem. Other one, the humankind will destroy whole of the physical environment, whole of the ecosystem, and never forget that the human is animal. It's possible you never thinking about you are animal, but I'm animal. Why? Because we are physical needs. Did you live in a student hostel?
No, in a flat.
No, okay. But I spent more than 10 years to student hostel. Private property, no so high moral ranking, and I remember I woke up during my university studies in the student hostel, and I was very hungry. And I decided I go into the refrigerator and I ate which I will find inside of the frigo. And opened the door of frigo. It's a typical in the student hostel, only a very small piece of butter. I found and I ate. I behave like omnivore, like a pig. This is the animal behavior. It's hungry and ate everything. And we are physical needs. We are animal. And two important conclusions of him: physical environment able to influence nature. Look at, for example, the history of Second World War. Each of winter time, it's very, very cold. Yeah. And for example, I met in international conference I remember, in Mainz, Germany, at the beginning of 19, with a Hungarian metallurgist, Neumann József, he named Yehuda Neumann, emigrated to Denmark from Hungary, and he analyzed the history of Second World War. And for example, first year of invasion of Plan Barbarossa, the proportion of lost German soldiers was the same for fight and for a very harsh winter. For example, in the science of military science, it's named General Winter. It's a very cold winter, and very dry winter, very dry year, able to kill same people like the weapons. Okay, George Perkins was very, very pessimistic and concluded that the human will destroy whole of the civilization and finally transform whole of the surface of Earth like a moon. It's useless without any form of life. Okay, how we can describe interaction between physical environment according to physical environment and human society in the point of view of modern, for example, environmental economics. Herman Daly is very important economist of the 20th century, summarized the first conclusion and the first research results of ecological economics or environmental economics. It's a very seminal book of him, Steady State Economics, published in 1977. Look at the introductory chapter, introductory sentences of him. Economic growth, the most universally accepted goal in the world. Obviously, you open, for example, each journal, electronic or paper-based journal, which is the good news, it's a great GDP growth. Which is the bad news, it's no great GDP. Therefore, it's the same. Capitalist, communist, fascist, and socialist all want economic growth. The technology is different. For example, the capitalist in the 19th century, it's possible you know the theory of invisible hand. Invisible hand. It's a classical liberal capitalist theory that therefore any participation of the government in the function of economy, invisible, a natural balance. This is the most efficient form of increasing, maximizing of economic growth, which is the communist. It was a great theory problem. Karl Marx in the 19th century wrote down in which country will win the communism. The most developed country. Look at Soviet Russia, not the most developed country. Not the most developed country. Therefore, the communists, which take the power in very poor country, which is his strategy, economic strategy. Like, for example, a gambler walking to the casino and take each of fortune to the black 13. And there is a good chance it's win or not, lost everything. Which was the black 13 for the communists? Heavy industry. It's invested everything to the heavy industry. Heavy industry. This was the reason of disaster in Ukraine, for example. You know the term of Holodomor. Holodomor, it was in Ukraine the great hunger. Great hunger, because take the fortune from the agriculture and invest it to the heavy industry. Constructed great factory in Magnitogorsk and a great industrial area, and it's take out the fortune from the agriculture and sold huge quantity of cereals and bought engine for heavy industry. And the Holodomor mean that in Ukraine sold in international cereal market even the seeds for the sowing of the following years. And more million people died in Ukraine. It was a gambling strategy, the communism. Taking everything and will, like Münchhausen, it's taking up it or himself, him or herself. And the fascism, there is a special economic strategy. Economic strategy means organized, for example, state organization for worker and the businessman, and taking the compromise between them under direction of government. And the socialism, so not Hungary and not the Eastern European countries was a real socialist country, but the Scandinavian, which is the strategy of Scandinavian. It's based to the added value. The richest country, production, there is high added value. Look at, for example, a Swedish car it's a Volvo, you know, the Volvo.
Yeah.
It's high added value. High added value. Look at, for example, Dutch agriculture. It's unbelievable when I read first time according to value of export, agrarian export on the world, the first United States, but the second one, the Netherlands. It's very surprising, half of Hungary, but very high added value. For example, flower seeds, for example, hard cheese, and lot of high added value products in the agriculture, able confirm or able to take high benefit, high profit for economic activity. And which is the good man for high added value? Well-educated people who relaxed and motivated. And the socialist country, Scandinavian country or Dutch people, it's lived a welfare state. Probably you know this term, a welfare state. The people, it's well-educated, highly motivated and relaxed people. And able to work efficiently with high added value. It's very interesting conclusion. Why? Because looking the 20th century, these political ideologies organized two world wars. But the economic strategy are the same, maximizing the economic benefit, maximizing the economic benefit. The system that grows fastest, considered the best, the upward growth, is the basis of national power. It offers prospect more for all and with sacrifice for none. It's a political program everywhere. We will be rich and great and big and everything and no any cost for that. And never calculate on the side of cost of physical environment, ecological cost. Nobody. Therefore, looking, for example, physical environment and ecological background, like it's a free resource. Okay, look at the geographers. You studied geography or on the secondary school?
No, I'm studying public health and master.
Yeah, okay, no problem. But you know the geography.
Yeah,
Okay.
I worked in a field of geography for heat.
Okay, the geography.
1 year, not long.
Geography is a very special discipline. Why? Because founded before formation of great disciplines. Because which is the most important boundary between and among different disciplines? It's a natural and the social sciences. And inside of geography, it's cut two parts. Physical geography and social geography. Why? Because geography, when founded this discipline, was science of people who discovered the world in the 19th century. If somebody, for example, discovered Australia or discovered southern part of America or Africa, necessary for describe the new discovered area, for example, physical environment, volcanoes, soil, climate, and the local people, and the form of economic activity of the people living in the country or region. Therefore, the geography is cut two parts. Physical, one part is a part of the social, and the other one natural sciences. Look at the geography. First generation of geography, it's baptized to determinist. Why? Because first generation used as a basic knowledges a Greek and the Roman geographical tradition. And the Greek and Roman historian agreed that the physical environment did determine a character of people. Look at, for example, a Greek geographer. A Greek geographer described the world, which is the reason, the great success of Greek civilization. Good physical and geographical location. Greece located between the warm country, like for example Egypt, and the cold country, like Scythia, located in the eastern part of recent Russia, Eastern Europe. Why? Because in the warm country, the people is very lazy. It's very high the temperature, nobody would like to work. And the cold country inspire the human effort for survival. And Greece located good country. And very interesting, the concept of Roman geographer. In the Roman history, there is a focus, who is the best soldier? Because Roman civilization and Roman Empire conquered almost all of the Mediterranean basin. Who is the best soldier? And conclusion, the best soldier living mountain area. Because walking up to down, it's a physical training. It's a gym somehow. And other one, who is the worst soldier living in the plain area, like Egyptian. In the point of view, the worst is an Egyptian, like it happened in the case of Greek. Okay, the first people who founded at the Berlin University Geographical Institute, it's Carl Ritter. It's a classical biography of him, exploration in Africa. He was the head of institute in Berlin University, Humboldt University recently. And he was the first person who defined first time geography. It's quite a modern, even 21st century point of view, it's a quite modern definition. According to you have a separate, you have a slide series.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay. If you expire the slides, because I printed out the next. Okay. Okay. Look at the geography. A geography, according to definition of Carl Ritter, physiology and comparative anatomy of Earth. The Earth is cosmic individual. It's very interesting because in the modern ecology, for example, James Lovelock thinking the same. More than one century later, it's cosmic individual somehow. The Earth, it's a mother of civilization. It's somehow it's an individual, cosmic individual defined up. James Lovelock similarly. Okay, the Earth is cosmic, particular organization and the exploration. This individuality of the Earth is the mission of the geography. Okay, and he introduced the Lebensraum concept. You know, it's a very bad association recently. But very interesting that the first meaning of Lebensraum, it's a living space, a little bit different. It's spiritual. It's a spiritual meaning. For example, one Hungarian philosopher described Hungarian literature according to living space. If somebody socialized a mountain area, socialized a plain area, socialized a small, scattered, very structured like in Transylvania, basically different the thinking. And the verb, which making and construct inside of novel, inside of poem, somehow it's transformed the thinking where was born and socialized and spent the childhood. And very interesting, for example, I socialized in the Hungarian plain area and received scholarship at the Berlin University. It was a tragical to me. Why? Mountain area. And for example, I have, sometimes claustrophobia because it closed valley and no open horizon like I accustomed in the plain area. And other side, in very high, it's agoraphobia. And I didn't dare going to the balcony because it's so deep and I felt that cold death to jump. It was very bad. It's very bad because I remember that the highest point on my village was 3 meters high. 3 meters high. I socialized 3 meter high. I remember when I started my secondary school studies in a 2-story high building, I didn't dare walking to the window because so deep. It's somehow, it's me on the time of Charakter and Lebensraum, the mentality, and which are the comfortable physical environment and the character. And very interesting, in the 20th century analyzed, for example, behavior of human in Europe. And one corner on the side, it's very simple psychological, analyzes how many gestures there is in 1 minute communication. And the one corner, a south of France, it's a Mediterranean guy, 124 gestures it's used for 1 minute communication. Other side, the Finnish people, only 1. Somehow there is a distribution, a regular distribution in the, for example, behavior. And you know, it's a classical joke, how can muted Italian people necessary to bind the hand and not able to communicate. Okay, so the classical, the first version, first appearance of Lebensraum concept, it's a very philosophical. Until the fascism, Nazism, it's transformed a lot of times. Okay, the second generation, great generation, Friedrich Ratzel. Friedrich Ratzel came from the biology. A biological thinking on the time of, for example, introduction of theory of Darwin, you know, the evolutionary theory and natural selection and so on and so on. He studied in Heidelberg, Jena and Berlin, and field trip Mediterranean basin, North America, Cuba and Mexico. Friedrich Ratzel is very, very talented and very creative person. He introduced a human geography. He introduced a political geography. And this is the sin of him, introduced how the name is ecological determinism concept of Lebensraum, published at the beginning of 20th century, introduced the social Darwinism, and this described first times that the history described according to fight between the strong and the weak nation, and flow into the Nazism. And not by chance that the Nazism and the extremism of the 20th century, no invention, no real invention, only picked from the theories and the scientific products of the 19th century. Okay, and he introduced the term of geopolitics, and very creative and very bad shadows scientific biography. And very interesting, even in the 19th century was a fight somehow, a conflict between the German geographer and the French geographer. The French leader of the French geographer, Paul Vidal de la Blache, it's a classical career of French intellectuals, even though the same school, the same social environment. Sorbonne is the first and the later École Supérieure, and he introduced Newton, paysage, milieu, région, and the key concept of him was a possibilism. Possibilism means a physical environment never determine the society and the behavior of human, only possibility. For example, if some area there is for example, iron in the mountain, it's a possibility making a heavy industrial center. It's a possible, without iron, no chance, but it's only a possibility, no determinant. It's a little bit softer. And very interesting, when appeared the sociology in the at the turn of 19th and 20th century, you started not to study sociology. Sociology, the latest social science, and it's a great ambition. You know, it's for example, even in the fairy tale, The youngest one is very ambitious because necessary to win the older brother and sister. A little bit behavior of sociology was the same. Try to become a meta social science and summarize each knowledges which produce anthropology, which produced by history, social geography, every literature, and summarize and making a meta social science which describe whole of event of society. But for conquering a field of social science, necessary to making a fence between social and natural sciences. And the founder Auguste Comte, Max Weber, and Emile Durkheim. According to sociologists, this is the hierarchy of the sciences. Mathematics, this is the primary sciences. Mathematics, astronomy, physics, chemistry, biology, and sociology. No more. History, according to point of view of sociology, not science. Geography, not science. Anthropology, not a science. It was an imperial ambition. This is the age of imperial ambition, not only in the political life, but even in the academic life too. Okay, and the next school, historical school, which taking a new invention to the problem of interaction between physical science and the physical environment and the human society, ANA school. It's a French school. It's a French school. Probably you have experiences about the academic and university life somehow. It's a life, it's a world of gerontocracy. You know which is the gerontocracy. This is the ruling of old people. If somebody young in this academic life know minimal the salary, minimal the connection and the network, and the minimal the chance rising up to the top of academic life. And step by step it's going to the top, to the academic life. And for example, earning a new job in the academic and university was very, very harsh. Very, very hard and necessary, great patience for that. But in consequence of successful closing of First World War, France reconquered Alsace-Lotharinge from Germany and founded a new university, Greenfield Investment, new university. The new university, each job is free. And a lot of people who no chance earning job, it's running to Alsace-Lotharinge. And founded a Strasbourg University. And two guys who no job any other place of the France, Lucien Febvre and Marc Bloch, received a job on the Historical Institute. And he was the first generation of historians who organized upheaval, a great revolt. Why necessary organize a scientific revolt? Because the first generation of historians, it's specialized political problem, for example, it's military problem, military history, founded a political history, no any other interested for. Only the affair of great man and the military operation, diplomacy, this was the history. And Lucien Febvre and Marc Bloch declared it's not true. It's not true. History, all of the human behavior on the world. For example, it's a historical problem how you can clean your mouth. For example, spitting. In the Asian culture, a spitting bowl, you know the spitting bowl, it's an elementary device of the household. And for rich people, it's for example, it's a silver spitting bowl. Poor people, only the wooden material used for the spitting bowl. But it's everybody spitting, even on the street. In European culture, it's forbidden. It's a prohibit. Therefore, if there is a problem, it's walking to the corner, dark corner, or to the toilet with the handkerchief and cleaning somehow. It's depend on the cultural background, forbidden or supported behavior. Therefore, introduce a concept of histoire totale. History total. Everything that human make and made is a field and the element of the historical reconstruction. Other one, look at, for example, the cloth. If you walk to the museum and looking, for example, a faceless doll, look at the cloth. In the traditional society, you can read each elementary information: age, social status, marital status, and the region who come from. Everything from the cloth, because a cloth was a social code of communication. Not necessary to speak that I came from the Württemberg and I am, for example, a widow. Not necessary. Everything like a social code was on the cloth. The next one, long duration, long time. In the traditional history, analyzed only the history according to rhythm of generation by generation. But looking, for example, the history of the Roman Catholic Church, started in the Roman Empire and even recently, more 1,000 years. Therefore, in the history, there are and there were long-term processes, not only the short-term, generation, long-term, and the regional synthesis, not according to, for example, national state, regions. Good. It's not interesting how change the title of Anna. Second generation. Okay, look at the ecologists. The last great school who influenced our thinking about environmental problem, ecologists. The first ecologist, this is the first line, but we will continue.
I need this new.
New one, yeah. New one. Here. Look at the next one. Okay. Ecologists. The first ecologist, Alexander Humboldt. As I mentioned, after him named the first university in Berlin. It's a classical German career, German scholar career, Frankfurt, Göttingen, field trip, Latin America, botanical geography, biogeography, cosmos. This is a great summary about the knowledges of human. He founded a botanical geography. It's main, which is the connection between the physical environment and the plants. Recently, these knowledges, it's a material of elementary school biology guidebook. But on his time, at the turn of 18th and 19th century, it was a great invention. The next milestone, Charles Darwin. And very important to mention, the first time Charles Darwin studied in Edinburgh theology. He was a graduated theologist. Because a lot of people who don't know the biography of Charles Darwin thinking it's the most important enemy of the theology. It's not true. It's not true. He graduated theology from theology in Edinburgh, and later in Cambridge. In Edinburgh studies natural science, and later in Cambridge graduated in theology. And the seminal travel and field trip of him with ship of beagle, you know, this is one species of dog, named the ship, and traveled around the world, and from his field trip experiences created the theory of evolution, and published in 1859 the seminal book on the origin of species by means natural selection, or the preservation favored races in the struggle for life. He was a classical natural scientist. For example, before his wedding, he made an analysis which was the advantage of the wedding and the marriage and the disadvantage. 2 columns described. It's a classical natural scientist, and only one item was more beside the marriage. You don't know the story.
No, I
Because, it's a special element of the Darwin biography. He wrote, for example, which is the advantage? 1, 2, 1, second, and finally had 5 arguments for marriage and 5 arguments against the marriage. And to win the marriage, that much better to be old together with one woman than to be old with one dog. From the point of view of 21st century, it's very surprising, but this was a normal logic of natural scientists in the 19th century. Okay, but from the middle of the 19th century, the evolution theory influenced the following century of public and scientific thinking. Okay? The next one, which from the point of view ecology, it's a crucial person, Ernst Haeckel. It was a great generation of German academic life of the 19th century. Ernst Haeckel, who introduced the term of ecology. It was a construction, the first element of the construction of the discipline named ecology. It's eco, oikos, habitation, and the logic, the logos. Therefore, we can transform the ecology. This is the science of habitation. And he followed the social Darwinism, connected very closely to the Ernst Haeckel. No, not Haeckel, it's who was a geographer. He was a geographer, not a carpenter. Friedrich Ratzel. The same conclusion like took by Friedrich Ratzel. Politics is applied biology. It's a very dangerous conclusion, which determine the behavior of Adolf Hitler. Okay, Ernst Haeckel described ecology. This is the definition of ecology. Ecology, we mean body of knowledge concerning the economy of nature. For example, ecology of nature means ecotope, it's a physical environment, and biosynosis. This is the community, for example, ant community of different animals living together with the physical environment. Inorganic and organic environment in the top. Okay, this is the definition of him about the ecosystem. We can run, not so interesting. Good. The crucial term of ecology, the concept of ecosystem. In the case studies about the human evolution, we will turn and return to the concept of ecosystem. American ecologists described first time the concept of ecosystem, Arthur G. Tansley, the whole system including not only the organism, but also the whole of complex of physical factors, organism and the physical factor. Basically, these are the two crucial elements of ecosystem. But look at the other more detailed description of ecosystem. Eugen Paul Adam. He defined ecosystem in the next form. Any unit it's very boring because definition, but using a definition, very useful because help us to understanding more deeply the processes. Okay, believe me. Any unit that include all of the organism, for example, the community in a given area, it's a crucial. A given area in the ecosystem, no hierarchy, because in any other regional theory there are a hierarchy. Look at for example, you know the Matyosha doll. It's a Russian doll. There is a small one, larger one. Take one to other. The majority of regional theory using the Matyosha logic: small area, middle area, macro area. But in the ecosystem, no such logic. For example, on the puddle, on the pavement, it's maybe an ecosystem, whole of the universe, whole of the earth. No logic. Each unit, each ecosystem, analyzed as individual construction. Okay, given area. Interacting with the physical environment, so the flow of energy. Okay, look at, according to logic of ecosystem, the human civilization. 99% of energy we are using came from the sun. This is the sun, and the energy using 99% came from the sun. Arrived as a sunbeam, solar radiation, the physical term, to the surface of Earth. On the surface of Earth, the plants, grass, bushes, trees transform in consequence of photosynthesis. In the sun, there is a nuclear fusion. Hydrogen transformed to helium. On the sun, there is a nuclear fusion. It's in consequence of solar radiation, the plants transform the nuclear energy to chemical energy on the body of plants. And to the chemical energy of the plants, construct free construction. Omnivores, like a pig, like us, ate everything. Herbivores, like for example the cattle, like for example grazing animals, antelope, zebra, any other, it's a herbivores. And the last one, a carnivores, tiger, lion, and wolves. And on the body of omnivores, herbivores, and carnivores, the chemical energy, I hope you can follow me, a chemical energy, it's applied to moving energy and heating energy. Moving energy and heating, because temperature of our body is 36 Celsius degree. It's normal condition. In animal, a little bit higher. For example, I'm living together with 3 cats, and for example, when I'm sick, I can test the temperature and a little bit higher, 1.5 Celsius degree higher. It's different, the normal temperature level of body. Okay. Moving energy and heating energy. And very interesting and important, which is the rate of moving energy. In the domesticated animal, horses, cattle, which other? Camel, able to transform the chemical energy with 10% of chemical energy, the fodder, to moving energy. The human, 18%. Therefore, before Industrial Revolution, the most efficient transformator of energy, human body. a human body. For example, this is the reason of survival of slavery. Because, for example, slavery is proliferated a peripheral area. For example, in Northern America, Southern America, and Russia. For example, in Russia, 1/3 of peasants were holop. Holop is a slave. Why? Because very low the density of population. Therefore, very high value the people who no chance for moving. Okay, in the traditional society, if for example looking quantity of energy which used, for example, medieval France or modern Germany before the Industrial Revolution, 70% of energy came from the human body, human muscles. And we can judge the importance of Industrial Revolution, how deeply changed the structure of economy and the physical activity. It's cancelled the importance of human body. Before the Industrial Revolution, 30% of used energy came from the simple engine, for example, windmill and the water mills and the domesticated animal, and the majority of human body. Not by chance in the traditional society, which is the most important indicator, one state. How many people living on the state? The population, the number of population, because majority of energy came from the human muscles. It's numbered, it's strong power, not so high number, it's a weak power. It's a weak power. Okay, flow of energy. Therefore, we can describe the global history, not only, for example, deeds of king and the generals, but flow of energy. Flow of energy. And looking at the modern time, the energy is a crucial indicator. Look at no energy here. We sitting on the dark. And no any devices able to help to us. It's mean how the name is, a technological dependence. We are living in the technological dependence. And recently, there are two pillars of modern society: cheap energy and the cheap water. If we are able to organize the cheap energy and the cheap water, we'll function. But if it's down, start a new world, a new age of human evolution. Okay, almost the last one from the side of ecologists, James Lovelock. He was a very seminal guy and a good example of intellectuals. He participated in the great project of Mars. The first phase of Mars project in the American Space Institution, it's NASA. And the problem which had to solve, there is or there is not life in the Mars, planet Mars. And analyzed the Mars, and finally at the beginning of 70s concluded no life on the Mars. Why? Because the physical processes, the wind and for example the degradation and everything, it's very steady. And which is the indicator of the life? Unstable situation and the high dynamism. The indicator of no life, everything is very, very steady. But he was a very clever guy, and then closed the contract, take the new question. Which is the reason that on the earth there is life? And his conclusion was a Gaia hypothesis. You know the story, Gaia is a goddess of Greek mythology. The goddess of earth, it's a Gaia. And he described the planetary civilization of earth, complex entity involving the earth, biosphere, atmosphere, ocean, the soil, totally constituting feedback, cybernetic system, self-sustainable system, whole of the Earth, which seeks an optimal physical, chemical environment for life of this planet. Which are the evidences beside the theory? The first one, the global surface temperature of Earth constant, but the radiation energy, solar radiation, increased with 25%. Atmospheric composition remains quite a constant. You know, the nitrogen, it's 78%, and the oxygen, it's a little bit more than 20%. And ocean salinity is constant. It's constant. Why so important? Because the first form of life appeared in the ocean. And the rate, I remember, 3.4, the rate, percent of rate of salinity. And if increase the salinity, you know, for example, in the Near East, the Dead Sea, the rate of salinity is more than 10%. It's killed everything. High concentration of salt. Okay, and finally, American School of environmental thinking. The most important prophet of American ecology, Henry David Thoreau. He graduated at the Harvard University, and happened, for example, me, similarly, after the graduation, no job. Yeah, it's normal. For example, it was finally retrospective manner. It's a good news to me because I traveled to Switzerland with scholarship, and I spent quite a long time at the beginning of 1990s, and later in Paris and later in Czech Republic. Therefore, this is a challenge somehow. No job, necessary to find alternative strategy of survival. And for example, the modern environmental history I learned during my fellowship, because necessary to move. Look at the fairy tales, which is the normal rhythm of the fairy tale. The young prince necessary to travel, because if somebody left on the homeland, no chance for learning the form of adaptation. Therefore, it was a good to me, but not comfortable. For example, living abroad, like for example, you living in Szeged, it's not totally comfortable because new culture, new behavior, new customs, and necessary, but increase and improve the adaptivity and improve the knowledges about the social culture. But Hungarian material culture and behavior not so far from the German, not so far. But for example, when I stayed in Paris, even the material culture, basically different. Even for example, the plug, it's different construction. For example, Hungarian devices didn't work with the French plugs, and the English and the American, the same situation. The material culture, the behavior, the norms is different, but increase the flexibility of the people. And somehow the process of the learning. Good, now turn back. Didn't receive a job, therefore he decided that leave the civilization. It's for example, for intellectuals, it's a old ambition. I would like to go to the wide environment. And he moved to one forest area and constructed a small hut and lived 2 years alone on the side of lake and far from the civilization. And somehow interwoven the Protestant theology and the pagan tradition of the Indians lived in America. And he was the first mystic proto-ecologist. And very important guy, because each American ecologist derived his or her career from the tradition of Henry David Thoreau. And I hope you remember the name of Roderick Nash. He is the godfather of environmental history, and his legendary mansion, America contributed three things to the world civilization: the Coke, the basketball, and the national parks. The national parks. You remember the cartoon of Yogi Bear? No? Okay, it's other generation. But national parks in the United States now are closed natural reservation. It's a picnic area. And the Yogi Bear, it was a cartoon in my age about, it's a story about a bear who steal, for example, picnic baskets. This is a funny story about it. Originally, national parks, first generation, not a reservation, but it was a picnic area. And not by chance, the second protected area, Central Park in New York, and the Yosemite Valleys. And the first national park was a Yellowstone. And proliferated the institution of national parks even in Europe, but basically different meaning. Because it's a closed area, it was a natural reservation. And the most important person of global ecological thinking was Rachel Carson. Originally he was a marine biologist, and he published, this is the trigger, you know which is the trigger. This is a trigger.
Yeah.
It's a trigger effect, mean some small deeds, but launch so high and important interactions, no chance for closing down. And writing A Silent Spring by Rachel Carson was a trigger effect. Launch that the process when ecology, which was a subdiscipline of biology, became a global thinking. A Silent Spring wrote about the greatest economic growth after the Second World War. After the Second World War, the economic growth was a continuous for 3 decades. No before and no after. So long economic recovery. But very high price. Very high price. Proliferated DDT. It's a pesticide. It's an atomic bomb in the natural world. If applied the DDT, kill every insect. And the consequence of DDT, it's a broad application of DDT, killed the insect, and the chain of consummation taking one brick and closed down everywhere. Because on the chain of consummation, there is an insect, a small mammals, birds, and taking one chain and one brick, it's closed the upper construction. The predator and who consume the insect and who consume mammals who ate insect, it's killed and destroyed, and whole of that it's closed down. And moreover, make a cancer. The human who applied the DDT. It's quite a popular. And the conclusion of the Silent Spring, one day, the DDT and any other pesticide kill each living materials, and we open the window and we are listening the silence. No voice. Kill the physical environment and kill us because we are animal, similarly. And this is the pessimistic conclusion, you remember? George Perkins Marsh, this was the same conclusion. Only the difference between Marsh and Rachel Carson verified this theory after the scientific analysis and the methods. And in United States, on that time, launched 2 movements. The first one, ecological movement, 2 directions. One direction, ecological activism. You know the Greenpeace, for example. It's an ecological, it's a political movement of ecology. It's one direction. Other one, each discipline reflected to the ecological challenge and founded ecological economics, ecological philosophy, ecological sociology, ecological history or environmental history. Therefore, ecology, before Rachel Carson, was a subdiscipline of biology, became a global thinking. And recently, the most important event of how the name is, it's a way of thinking is ecology in the global sense. Good. The background is obviously how increase the rate of pesticide and fertilizers. And one direction, environmental policy, as I mentioned, and environmental researches. And Earth of Day, founding of Greenpeace, Club of Rome. Club of Rome is a quite interesting construction. It was a very seminal in the 70s. Recently, the importance much lower. But it's constructed 1968. Half of the participants, businessmen, half scholar, and somehow try to find a compromise. Okay, first conference, Brundtland Commission. Brundtland Commission introduced sustainable growth. It's a very contradictory term because everybody agreed that necessary continue the self-sustainable growth, which started on the time of Industrial Revolution. And the sustainable growth, it's a classical compromise term between the environmental protection and the needs and ambition of economic growth. Okay, look at the environmental history. Okay, and this is quite a large unit. We closed, and we are hoping that will increase the rate of interesting. Okay, anyway, starting day of environmental history, when American Society for Environmental History founded in 1977, and much later founded European Society for Environmental History. The reason is very simple. In the United States, the great dimension of transformation of physical environment started in the 19th century. Therefore, the memories, the generations' memories, save the condition of physical environment before the transformation. In Europe, we are living a basically and deeply transformed physical environment from the Bronze Age. 4,000 years ago started. In United States, only 1 century. In Europe, 4,004 millennia. Okay, we will continue with the story and how try to describe environmental history, interaction and transformation of different ecosystems. Okay. Thanks a lot for your attention. We will continue in the next week.